I have loved spending time with you all today. I know we are getting to the last part of the day, but thank you for allowing me to swatch your brand. Thank you for allowing me to experience a guided meditation. And now I really want to get into the behind the scenes of beauty and wellness, the authenticity behind it, but also the space it creates for Black women to flourish in all different ways, in community, financially, all the things. So y'all ready to have this convo?
Let's do it.
Okay, so again, you both bring community together in such authentic ways. I love to watch what you do within your communities. What's the impact that being your true self makes on a larger scale? I know both of you are very big on authenticity, so when your confidence is low especially, how do you continue to show up as that best version of yourself? And Debbie, I'll start with you on this one.
I would say, I feel a commitment to always show up as my most authentic self in every space I occupy because, one, it frees me. Secondly, it gives everyone else permission to do the same. It's like we don't have to always be meeting one another's representatives. Let's go deep. Let's cut the small talk. Let's talk about things with depth that matters. And so I just noticed that the more that I'm able to do that very authentically, I get so much from it, from everyone that I communicate with.
I love that. I totally agree. And in your brand, how about you? Authenticity and showing up as your full self, how does that impact your community?
Yeah, I definitely agree with, showing up as your authentic self definitely gives you permission to others to do the same. I think as professionals, you get caught up in like respectability politics and feeling like you have to look and talk and be a certain way. And so when you're actually able to show the world that it's actually okay to be yourself, it also helps other people see that, yeah, actually it's okay to be myself. No matter how weird, if I talk funny, if I like these certain things, it's okay. So I definitely agree with that. Being your authentic selves helps other people have permission to be their authentic selves as well.
I love that. I love that. There is something so awesome about watching you all take up space in the world in the ways of wellness and beauty. And we're in LA, and we're also in a really heavy time in the world right now where we are kind of off balance, trying to figure things out. Sometimes it feels like it's a dumpster fire here, but it's fine. But as a society, especially during these trying times, how do you think we can uplift each other more? And when it comes to equity and driving change around how we all show up for each other as a community, how do you think we do that? But first, I want to talk about the showing up for each other and making sure that through periods of inequity, we are still uplifting each other. Yeah.
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is just giving each other grace.
Grace.
I think, it's really easy to kind of like look at what someone's doing and judge it, but, I think all of us here know how hard it is to start something from scratch, how hard it is to the hard part isn't starting, it's to keep going no matter what happens when you go through the ups and the downs. And so giving each other grace through, as you mentioned, we're going through a hard time right now. And so,
I'm exhausted.
And especially as Black women, like we can give each other grace, and I think that's important.
I love that. I love that.
For me, I would say the premier solution to every issue I see, especially in community building, is integrity. I think if we are always attuned and aligned with our integrity, every choice that we make is beneficial to all. So it's like, yes, our purpose is to be here to be of service, but we have to serve ourselves first. And to be your authentic self, you have to become aware of yourself, which also means editing in certain ways, right? What needs to shed, be cast aside? What are higher, better, more intentional choices I can start to make? How do I show up with dignity, authenticity, and integrity? And I think when each of us is committed to our personal integrity, it becomes really simple to be in community with each other. There is a reciprocity at play. There is just an evolutionary thought at play.
I love that idea of the reciprocity, especially because I think we also live in times where people feel like they've been cheated. And in many spaces, especially in the beauty industry, how we talked about how for a long time, you would have to search to find shades that
I'm trying to give you money.
Hello? Right. I thought, do you like my money? I don't understand. But, and even in wellness, like spaces where Black women feel safe, I think is so important. Even like the Blackbird Collective that we're sitting in is so important because it's Black women owned and Black women centered. And I think you do such a great job of centering women of color in your practice. So when we think about equity equity and in beauty and wellness, in what ways would you like to see it change and make sure that Black women are centered in these spaces where historically we might not have been?
That is something we are still evolving into, I think, especially in wellness, because for so long, I mean, a lot of the spaces in wellness were so white-centered that it was absolutely harmful to any other person that walked into that space. Like, you'd actually walk out with the opposite of healing. You'd become even more against yourself from being in some of those spaces. But you know, I think expertise is really important. That's something I want to speak to at the highest level, because in this day and age, I think everything has become so entrepreneurial that people will read a book and create a course.
Wow.
Or they'll have an idea and then decide, I'm CEO, I'm this founder. And when it comes to wellness, we need people who have been in deep, devoted practice and study with this work and with these modalities, so that they're able to share the work with dignity, with integrity, with truth, and really meet the needs of other people. So I think, you know, for so many women that may be looking to be in this space, to be of service, don't just make it about the marketing. Don't just make it about the business name, the logo, the great photographs you'll take. Make it about deep understanding, right? Like, really put yourself into it. How can you create change? What are some tools and skills you can serve to other people? It's not just about us, which is at the root of also how we create, you know, all the things that we wish to share with people. You know, what's your intention? What's your agenda?
A sermon. That's great. I want to ask you the same with the beauty world.
Right. I think it definitely, you know, thinking about expertise and thinking about, like, how does one get started? I think taking down those barriers to entry is so important. Like, you know, I think a lot of people are able to, or let me rephrase that. If you aren't, you know, of a certain status or a certain class, you don't have the capital to be able to say, I'm going to take this unpaid internship and, you know, you get the experience that's needed because you can't afford it, right? And so I think now that there is social media and there are kind of these tools to learn, let's break down some of those barriers to entry. And as, you know, all of us here climb up, bring somebody up with you, right? Like, I think that's also the most important thing, because those barriers to entry were created by, you know, upper class white men, especially in beauty. You know, a lot of the CEOs back in the day were rich white men, and so we need to break down those barriers to entry and make it easier for everyone who's coming after us to do what, you know, we're trying to do. So.
I love that point about the unpaid internship. Like, a lot of people don't talk about the reality of the definition of time is money.
Literally.
And if you do not have the time to invest in showing up to work for free, you literally cannot do it.
You can't move up.
Like, you can't move up, and I think that's such an important part. We got to do more of, like, funding kids for internships. But let's get back to beauty and wellness, because I can talk about that too. That's a whole other episode.
Okay.
But I love that point you brought up about navigating the gatekeepers that exist, especially historically in these spaces. Social media blew the roof off of all of that. Like, you can start your own community if you got the right, you know, I mean, algorithm and all. If you understand how it works, or you're just so authentic that it bleeds through, it cuts through, you can just change your life essentially. So in your worlds, how have you seen social media help remove the gatekeeping of the industries as a whole?
I mean, I'll say I wouldn't be here without social media. Like, I started my online community, Cocoa Swatches, on social media. It was a way for me to connect with other people who were just had a deeper skin tone and were looking for the information that I was looking for. And so it definitely allowed me to even just have people, like-minded folks in a room, so to speak, right, on a platform. And through that, I got to meet so many people in real life. I got to so many experiences, so many just lessons I would never have learned if I had not just, you know, got on my phone and, you know, decided to share that day. And so I think it really can be life-changing, not only just, you know, monetarily, but literally just those experiences and those lessons and those people that you'll meet through social media. It is supposed to be about connecting, so.
Yes.
It's supposed to be.
Yes. What about you, Debbie? What's your offering?
You know, I think something that I've really loved within the wellness industry is that social media has given more opportunities for people to find something that's a fit for them and whatever their healing journey is that wasn't available before. When I first started teaching meditation, I had to talk people down for hours about how this is good for you and it's not the devil, or it's not, nothing's wrong with it, your family won't get mad. And now thanks to social media, like, you're able to destigmatize it so fast. People can see, they can see people that look like them. For the longest time, the wellness industry was really, really centered through just a white gaze, which is crazy, considering especially that all of these tools that we're now using in wellness, especially meditation, are thousands of years old and from cultures of color. And social media has allowed us to really see people, find teachers that look like us, find different practitioners and people that can help us on our journeys, that can understand us a little bit better.
I think that there's something so important that you just said there. The thing that you do, like your thing, is what draws people to you.
Yeah.
That thing that like you do could be, you never know who's following you. It could be the one post they see that could change their whole day, change the whole perspective around showing up in the world. And especially from what you both do, I think that's true. I see it. I see what y'all do, and the way that you show up in the world inspires other people to show up brighter. And I think that's so beautiful. That's why I wanted to talk to y'all about this, because it's just such an important conversation.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you all, one of Buick's missions is to drive equity and inclusion and to create a world in which women are given a greater sense of well-being. We're talking about beauty, we're talking about wellness, and obviously I want to ask you, can you two share your ideal vision of the future for wellness and beauty? I know that's a long, right? Think about it, because that's a huge thing. But when you think about the future in a perfect world in wellness and beauty, what would it look like?
I'd want to see so many systems need to be broken down and rebuilt to make what I'm about to say happen, but there is no real ability to change and heal without free time and creativity.
Ooh.
So what I would love to see happen, especially for women of color around the world, is that we are able to do less so we can become more. My hope is that we are able to find the space and stop martyring ourselves and overburdening ourselves, so that there is time in the day for reflection, so that there is time in the day for us to care about our bodies, about our brains, about our hearts, to do the things that we need to do for our health and for our emotional lives. So we need space, we need time, and we deserve it.
Just
I was like all the things.
All around Debbie Brown. No, okay. That was hard to follow.
I know. No, you're right.
No, because you're coming from a different perspective, so I want to hear your.
Right. I feel like, and it's similar in the sense that, like, I don't know how you achieve this, but I think that as Black women, as Black people, we're often the thought leaders because, we're driving a lot of culture, right? And so in beauty too, it's like, I wish there was a way to give us the credit that we deserve before and not after. You know what I mean?
After we call it out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where's like box braids versus,
boxer braids.
Okay, like, those type of things. Like, we all know what it is, right? And so it's like, when these cultural moments, and I don't really like using that term, but when these viral moments happen, how do we capitalize, for lack of a better word, on that? How do we get that credit that's due? And how can we turn that into better things for ourselves? Because a lot of times we see things and we create these things and they go viral and they have a moment, but we don't actually see any of that success, money, fame, or whatever it is. Like, we're not necessarily chasing fame, but like, we should be getting something from that. And so I think in beauty, as we all love Rihanna, but like we want to see more Rihannas, right? We want there to be space for more Rihannas. I think a lot of people think of diversity now as a gimmick. It's like, oh, we'll just copy and paste, and we already have one, so that's enough. It's like, no, I think this should be the standard. And how do you improve on that and also empower Black people doing that? So if there's anything, just that credit that that equity that we're talking about? How do we get that before and not after? Something I would love to figure out.
Those were great answers. I love that y'all was like, hold on, let's breathe, because I really want to come to it, because that was worth it. That was so worth it. And my last question for both of you is, I'm sure there are women right now who are watching you both that want to one day be where you are in wellness and in beauty. And I want to go back to like the day one versions of you, the person that said, I'm switching careers to fully focus on wellness and spirituality and growth. I am creating cocoa swatches because I'm sick of this. If you had to go back to that version of you on day one, what advice would you give her about the journey ahead, about building the career and life of your real passion, of your dreams?
It's another one we need to think about.
All right, breathe, baby. That's what we're here for, to breathe.
I would say learn to be at peace with your patients. You know, because very often if you are given a vision, or if you're a visionary, it means you got it before other people thought of it or believed in it, right? And so I remember when I was first getting started and I knew I wanted to start my business, like everyone laughed. Everyone.
Goodness.
Like everyone. Leaving entertainment to meditate, everyone laughed. And no one understood it then, right? This was like maybe 2015. It wasn't until 2020 when the pandemic hit and people actually began to want the things that I had to offer, that I was able to come into the fullness of my vision that I had always had. And so I had to be patient for 5 years. I was doing excellent work the whole time, living a life that I loved, helping people, changing, growing, but it didn't match the level of success I had in entertainment. Until the world shifted. Sometimes what you have to give is waiting on a paradigm shift, but it doesn't mean that you can't start, because now you can arrive as the expert when the rest of the world is ready. Now you can arrive with the tools and the gifts, the perspective, the ability to really create impact for others. So the more you can cultivate patience, respect patience, grow patience, I think the sky is the limit on who we can be.
Again, amazing. Amazing. I love that perspective. And what about you? Day one, you opened up the page.
Day
You're like,
one.
cocoa swatches.
Yeah.
What would you tell Ofune then?
Oh man, I think the phrase that just keeps going on in my head is like, you're gonna have to just keep going. It's going to get difficult, but you have to keep going, because I think that the need for what I do, I feel like was there then and it's still here now, right? But there were so many times where I felt like, I don't think I can take this on by myself, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe I'm not the right person to do this. But, you know, maybe a day or two will pass and I'll get up like, all right, you know? And so it's just like telling that girl, you know, the broke little graduate student that was like, I just have a good idea and I think this would be really cool. It's like, you know, it is cool. But just remember, anytime that you have any doubts, anytime that you feel like you're not enough, just know that you are, and all you have to do is keep going, because the only way to fail is to quit.
That's a word right there.
So, you know,
Keep going. I love that. That phrase, keep going, literally changes worlds because in this world, we have no choice but to keep going.
Oh, yes.
And I am so grateful that both of you all have kept going in your journeys, and watching you all thrive has just given me so much hope for women in general, but especially Black women, where we need y'all. We need each other,
Right.
but especially people who focus on wellness and beauty and showing up as their full authentic selves. So I just thank you both so much for being here in our LA episode of More Than That. Thank you so much for being here, Debbie. Thank you so much for being here, Ofune.
Thank you for
See y'all
having
soon.
us. Yes.